What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So, the long-awaited tier list video for the month of October is finally here. Now, these are the videos that everyone seems to love on the channel. Just want to put this out there. Remember that tier lists are not serious. Like, this is not the end-all be-all. You have to follow this. These are the best legends. Like, no other opinion matters. No, of course, it's all subjective. You can have an opinion that is completely different to mine, and that is completely okay. I just want to put my tier list out there for people who wanted my opinion on what I think are the best legends in the game. Just because you think a certain legend is better or worse than I have on this tier list doesn't mean that I'm wrong, or doesn't mean that you're right. Literally, it just doesn't matter. You know, a lot of legends that aren't on this list can beat a lot of content, but I don't personally rate them as high as other characters because of certain characteristics, which I will go through right now. Obviously, I have my tier list here. I'll leave a link down below to an imgur, so you can go over to the imgur to see this full image for yourself, so you can see it in high quality rather than seeing it on the video here. But I do have the criteria here. So obviously, power, meaning how much damage they can deal against the enemy. Speed, so how fast they can clear content. Reliability, so, you know, how often do they die? Do they have really good survivability, which is a really good component for characters these days. As a captain, how much can they clear, or like how effective are they at clearing content, and also their usable units. So if a character doesn't have that many usable units, like you can only use a very set team that can beat content, it's not going to be as good as some other characters. But let's go ahead and get into it. So there actually are a couple of changes. There's 4 main changes in this tier list. We'll go through them obviously as we progress along the tier list here. But tier 3 is the exact same as last month. We've got Corazon here, we've got Jack, Kung Fu Luffy. I think those are some of the best characters in here. I saw some people did say, you know, you should probably make a separate list just for characters like Buggy, Magellan, and Jack. You know, the more useful characters that you don't really use them to clear difficult content. They're more just useful characters to have. Magellan sometimes can be used to clear difficult content, but you know, stuff like Buggy and Jack, those are like very niche characters that are just good for everyday things. I understand what you're saying, but this is just in terms of, you know, using the character to clear content, right? Jack, he's a 3 times captain. You can definitely use him to clear some difficult content, and people have been using him to clear difficult content. I just don't think as a captain he is better than some of the characters in tier 2, but obviously Jack is just a really useful legend to have, right? Because that EXP boost is ridiculous. Same as Buggy, having that dupe drop is really, really nice to have. But just because they have that does not mean that the character is inherently more powerful than another character on this list. I just want to put that out there because I know some people get confused as to why Buggy isn't on here. I know he's a useful legend, but this is just in terms of how good they are at clearing content. Of course, Buggy's not good at clearing content, so hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from for the tier list. It just seems like there's lots of confusion around this, and a lot of people get really upset about it, and that's why I want to say there's no reason to be upset about a tier list. It's all my subjective opinion. Okay, so let's continue on here. Obviously, just with the other characters here, V2 Lucci 6+. I actually saw a lot of people use him for the Black Blade training event recently because of the cooldown reduction. He's a quick character, obviously, so that helps out with all the enemies being strength. So V2 Lucci was good for that, but of course it's a very easy piece of content. Many legends in the game can clear it, so I don't really think that's really a big thing that should, you know, shift his position on my personal tier list. I still think that V2 Law 6+ is still really good. Barrier removal, 200k fixed AoE, or boost for Cerebral, one of the better classes in the game. He's just a really good sub-unit. As a captain, he's not the greatest nowadays. And obviously Law, he has a usable captain, and his special is very good as well. It'll always see play, honestly. And then you got some other characters with usable specials, with Tesoro, Garp, and Rayleigh. And then, you know, Brook, it is what it is. It's in that same vein as what I was saying in terms of usable or useful captains like Buggy and Jack. I guess Brook can be paired in that as well. Brook is really good and was actually used to clear the 0 stamina Mihawk event, which is obviously really good. So if you use Brook for that, you know, thumbs up to you, but he's just not as good as some of the other characters on this tier list. But my god, Brook has a very good special ability, no doubt. Very good special. But as I said, tier 3, nothing really too special here, so we can go ahead and move on to the next tier. So the next tier up above is tier 2, of course, so we've still got pretty much the same sort of characters here, with the new characters that were introduced in the previous month. They've basically just been injected into tier 1 because they're just good with all the new support and stuff. But with tier 2, we've got NL, of course, no real big changes there. Frankie, honestly, I've been tempted to put Frankie in tier 1. I'm not 100% sure yet, but yeah, Frankie by himself is good, but he works better when he is used as a hybrid captain. And that's part of the reason why I wouldn't want to lift him above his current position. Just because he only gets the best, you only get the best out of Frankie when you use him with someone else. Ideally, someone like Snake Man is really good with him, or you know, Quick Gear 4 Luffy, the Tank Man Luffy. There's just lots of different options you can use with Frankie, but in my personal opinion, I think he's fine at tier 2. He has a great special too, usable 2.25 times attack boost in certain situations, as well as a health cut. Orb shuffling. Frankie's just a really usable character. V2 Doflamingo, since the release of the Barto and Cavendish batch, I was tempted to move this guy to tier 1, but personally, since using Barto and Cavendish, I haven't really seen a reason for him to move up. There's still the same problems with Doflamingo that have still arisen. The fact that the enemies will just have lots of different ways to negate the usefulness of Doflamingo. So for that reason alone, I think he's still very fair to keep him at tier 2. Still a great captain, still got an amazing special. It's just that Bandai try everything in their wake to destroy V2 Doflamingo, and obviously now with other characters such as V2 Katakuri as well. Kind of annoying, but they are kind of powerful. If they didn't have any way to stop Dofi and Katakuri, dude, like, after you pull them, you just win the game. So it's understandable why they do certain things, but they really go out of their way to stop Doflamingo. And then no real big changes here with Robin and Nami. Nami, honestly, I haven't used Nami in such a long time. Maybe once we get her 6+, she does get a little bit more useful. So maybe at that point, I will use Nami a little bit more. But personally, I think Nami's quite fine sitting here at tier 2. V1 Katakuri is still kind of a weaker captain, much slower as well. Like, he's weak and slow, just compared to the other legends that are in the game right now. And that's the main reason why I'd leave him in tier 2. But he is still really good, and he can hybrid up with a lot of characters as well, enabling him to clear content, which is really, really cool. Big Mom is an interesting one. So there's actually been a decent amount of content that came out that, like, Big Mom was, like, pretty good for. I'm, you know, mainly talking about the extra Clash Judge. Big Mom was one of the more optimal teams for that, and she obviously did destroy it because it's Dex content, of course, so understandably why Big Mom was able to do that. But, you know, same reasons as last month. I don't think Big Mom deserves to go up to tier 1. Some people would disagree with that, and that's fine. That's fine if you disagree. I just personally don't think Big Mom is as good as what other people are saying that she is. V2 Jinbei, my man Jinbei, still really good. No real big changes here either. I just think everyone in tier, like, if I was put in a situation, would you rather use Jinbei or any other character in tier 1? I would most likely, like, want to use any other character in tier 1 as a captain compared to Jinbei. Saying that though, Jinbei is a really good sub. He is a attack booster for 3 separate colors. He has great classes being fighter and powerhouse, and he's also a health cutter. He's a great, great sub. I used him on V2 Katakuri teams a lot. Just a really all-round great character to have. So if you have Jinbei and you have some other good fighter and powerhouse characters that have overlapping colors with his special ability, that's going to be really, really good synergy there. Shiki's an interesting one. I've seen a lot of people use Shiki to clear content recently, which is good to see because Shiki's not a character I often use. Like, I will rarely ever use Shiki, but I've seen him predominantly be used on EXP teams with Jack as a captain, using it to clear content because of his special ability, doing some really, really good AoE damage to the enemy, gives you a full board of recovery orbs as well. But yeah, Shiki's a great unit. I don't think he deserves to be in tier 1, though he can just about clear everything in the game, honestly. It's just the fact that, you know, the usable units that he has are good. It's just that using him is annoying because you have to hit in color order, and honestly, if I want to hit something in color order, I would just rather use V2 Kuzan. I think V2 Kuzan is just a better character compared with Shiki, but that's just my personal opinion. You guys might disagree there. And then we've got Zephyr. I think Zephyr's fine. No real big changes here either. I don't think he's a terrible legend. I don't think he's the best legend. He's far from the best legend, but also very, very far from the worst legend. I just think that characters like Dex Sabo and Capone are just better characters to use as a captain overall. In certain instances, V2 Lucci can be better because of the cooldown reduction, but you gotta remember that Zephyr does provide damage reduction, he does provide tap timing bonus damage, but in that same vein, it's better to use him as a sub because of his great sailor abilities of matching orbs and tap timing bonus damage, so those are really useful to have on a shooter team. But this is kind of like the same instance with the slasher batch that just released, and when we go into tier 1, I will talk about that a bit further. But yeah, I don't know, man. The slashers are a little bit iffy for me. But let's go ahead and move on to tier 1 now that we've completed all of tier 2. But tier 1 is where most of the changes, or basically tier 1 and tier 0 and tier 1 are where most of the changes have gone through. So let's go ahead and move on now to tier 1. And tier 1 is getting ridiculously large. So over the coming months, I will have to see when characters get released. We might have to break up the tier a little bit, move characters down, move characters up and such. I'll try and get to that, but we have a lot of characters here, and one character that stands out that was moved up into this tier list from last month was actually version 1 Sanji. Now, a lot of people have been saying for a while now that I should probably move version 1 Sanji up to tier 1, and you know, a lot of the time I was like, yeah, maybe, I'm not too sure. But with recent content that's come out, even with Colosseum Brook, and it's like, yeah, Colosseum Brook is a side character. Obviously, V1 Sanji is going to be able to beat it. But even when you look at Raid Big Mom that came out, like version 1 Sanji was one of the most optimal characters to use for that. For number 1, obviously being able to avoid the captain swap on stage 4 is ridiculously useful on that stage, so you don't have to bring a dedicated character to switch your captain in so that you can avoid that debuff. But just the fact that he's just a powerful character, being an int class is really useful for him as well, meaning you can utilize other characters such as V2 Shanks, which allows you to get full board of orbs and a type boost, of course. But with Sanji himself, he's just a really nice character to have. He outputs a ridiculous amount of damage, works well with some of the other tier 0 characters as well. So if you have the tier 0 characters and you have characters like Sanji, you can do some pretty cool shenanigans with him. But I think Sanji is well deserving of tier 1. Just with the amount of content that's been coming out, he has been able to beat it, which is very surprising considering how old the character is. Yeah, he is actually the oldest character in tier 1, which is kind of ridiculous, honestly. His 6+ is fantastic, but as for the rest of the tier list, there was another character that wasn't here last month that is no longer in this tier list, in tier 1 anyways. But we've got Lucy, Judge, Luffy and Ace, Shanks, Kuzan, Akainu, V2 Sanji, and V1 Sanji. Again, with those characters, those are pretty much staples in tier 1. I don't think they'll be moving anytime soon. You've got Capone in here as well, my boy Capone. Carrot, obviously she has some pretty big drawbacks, understandably why she's in tier 1. Some people might put her in tier 0 because she's just that good. I understand where people are coming from, but there are just some content that she literally cannot beat. I'm not talking about training forests either. I'm talking about some specific Colosseums or, you know, specific raids or special events. She just can't do it because she just won't have the damage output, and that comes down to the criteria of usable characters. The usable characters with Carrot is really restricted. You don't have a lot of characters that can be utilized on a Carrot team that will enable you to clear content as easier as some of the other characters, which is a pretty big drawback. I think that Carrot does deserve to get some more support in terms of her usable units, so hopefully we do get some more support later on, but for the most part, it is quite difficult for her to clear some specific pieces of content. But still, if Carrot can clear it, she's always going to be my number 1 captain just because of her speed. She's going to be faster than every other character in the game. Very, very understandably so. We've got Legend Cracker here as well. Cracker, very, very good character, man. I'm so blessed to have been able to pull Cracker. I've been using him a lot since I pulled him. He's phenomenal. He is the best sub in the game, in my personal opinion. One thing that I don't like about Cracker, though, is that he will change his own orb into matching, guaranteed. Like, every time he uses special, he changes, like, what is it, like, block, bomb, G, like, recovery into matching, but then it says also changes his own orb into matching. I don't like that because there was a certain piece of content I was wanting to use him for, but the fact that he manipulates his own orb was actually a big key issue. So that was really annoying, but you know, that's a very, very minor issue. You know, special interrupts are going to be a thing on a lot of pieces of content, and it does make certain legends better and worse. So, you know, it's fine. You know, Cracker has that really annoying thing, but it's okay. Just the fact that he has a 1.1 chain boost, a 1.75, is it 1.75? It might be a 2 times color affinity. I don't even know. I'm actually going to check right now. I'm pretty sure, is it 2 times? I'm going to check that out. Quick Cracker. I'm pretty sure it's a 1.75. Yeah, it's 1.75 for 2 turns for Free Spirit, Cerebral, Powerhouse, and Driven, and then the 1.1 times Chain Multiply boost is ridiculous, highest chain boost in the game. If you partner all that up on top of some of the best orb manipulation in the entire game, this is just, you must have this guy. This guy, you need him just for enabling your teams to do that much more extra damage. And he has great classes, being Powerhouse, so works out with a lot of the more recent batches that have been released with Snake Man and Katakuri, with Wipe It and Marku, of course. Works really well with Sanji and Judge as well. But he's also a slasher, which means that he works very, very well with the new characters that were just released, being V2 Mihawk and V2 Zoro. So I skipped over Sabo there, but it's fine. There's nothing really too big about Sabo. I actually used him to farm Raid Big Mom, and he was pretty good. But talking about Mihawk. So Mihawk, I think, is the better of the 2 characters that were released with Zoro and Mihawk. I think Mihawk is by far the better character. He has the better captain ability. Well, specifically for Slashers, because Slashers really needed a better captain. Prior to this batch releasing, like, which character here is like the best slasher captain? Like, there really wasn't a good slasher captain here. So they really needed a good captain, and Mihawk is exactly that. He is essentially a slasher version of V2 Sanji, which is fine, because Sanji can output some of the highest damage potential in the game. Especially, he can do like millions and millions of damage without even to have a special activated, which is really cool, right? The thing with Mihawk is he makes it that Dex and Int Orbs appear more often on your team, which is a very interesting mechanic, especially with the fact that there aren't many characters that can just grant you a full board of Dex and a full board of Int Orbs that are slasher characters, or there aren't many characters that can treat them as beneficial, which is kind of annoying. However, enter V2 Zoro. V2 Zoro is the perfect sub for Mihawk, having the Sailor ability to make Dex and Int beneficial for your slasher characters. And also the fact that he makes the Recovering Tandem Orbs beneficial for 3 turns, and he does 120 times his attack AoE, and he has a 2 times attack boost turn 1 and 2.25 times attack turn 2. Bro, V2 Zoro is an exceptional sub-unit. Honestly, one of the better subs in the game. And obviously, it's only for one class. But for what he provides for that class is just... it's dumb, bro. It is so dumb. That damage is ridiculous. Like, over 200,000 damage. The 3-turn orb beneficial enable is so key. That is going to be so useful for a lot of slasher teams getting around certain debuffs. Obviously, the debuffs where you get given negative orb enable, having that ability there is so good. And then obviously the 2-turn attack is going to be ridiculous. The same as Lucy, right? Lucy for 3 separate colors, but Lucy is 1.75 into 2 times. This guy is 2 times into 2.25, so slightly higher attack power. But then, when we look at the special ability of Mihawk, right, we talked about how good of a captain Mihawk was. The fact that Mihawk's special ability is a 2 times orb boost at the minimum, and I think it's a 25% health cut to one enemy as well, so that's pretty good. But if you have at least 4 Dex or Int Orbs, it is a 2.25 times orb boost, and he locks your orbs for that turn as well, which is fine, right? But the thing is you need to have those orbs in order to get that really big orb boost, and then at that point, if you don't have V2 Zoro, you're kind of screwed. You need to try and get matching orbs somehow. But then, in turn, when you look at the captain ability of Zoro, he's a 3.25 times attack boost. He gives you a lot of health though. I think it's a 1.5 times health boost. But as a captain, he makes Dex and Int beneficial. So you can run a hybrid team of these. I did try a hybrid team with Zoro, with V2 Mihawk. It was okay, but I definitely think that running the double Mihawk is by far the way to go with the new slasher stuff. I personally am not a fan of Zoro's captain ability. Some people might disagree here. Again, you know, it's fine to disagree. I think that Zoro's captain ability is kind of trash. 3.25, but then you get a slight increase of attack. I think you end up being around about a 4 times attack boost if you have a Dex or Int Orb on your team. Now, obviously, if you're running double Zoro, the chances of you getting a Dex and Int Orb are not going to be that high. Especially if you are running characters that are not Dex or Int. It's going to be hard to try and get, you know, Dex or Int Orbs on those characters specifically. So I don't like the way that they structured Zoro. I don't like the fact that he needs specifically Dex and Int for his higher attack boost. I would have preferred it if it was just, if they have a matching orb, you get, you know, extra attack boost. That would have been so good. I would have loved Zoro to be like that. Unfortunately, not the case. You need specifically Dex and Int. So I understand why they structured it the way they did. I'm just not a fan of the way they structured it. Mihawk, though, I'm fine with Mihawk. I don't think there's much that really needs to be changed with him. But Zoro, not a big fan of his captain ability. But special ability, off the charts. To finish off Tier 1, though, we've got Dogstorm and Cat Viper here. I don't really think that there's too much to say about them. They're still very powerful for Striker and also for Cerebral teams. I did use them recently for some pieces of content. I don't remember what it was. I think it was the Black Blade training event and a couple of other things. But yeah, Dogstorm and Cat Viper were really good. And they still have one of the best specials in the game. And the fact that they boost 2 very powerful classes, yeah, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And then quick Whitebeard. Now, this was the big one. I think a lot of people would agree to the fact that Whitebeard is probably one of the best legends in the game. And I would definitely agree. But there are still some downfalls to the character that, for that reason, why I would leave him at Tier 1. The fact that he's a low HP captain, obviously he has ways to get around being at low HP. He has the damage reduction when you use his special. He's got characters such as Log Ace to give you a bit of recovery, and he has really good utility with Log Ace as well. Raid Ace just came out. The Raid Ace ship, the Ace Pirate ship just came out. All of these different factors make Quick Whitebeard so good. But in my opinion, I still think characters that are in Tier 0 are a little better because they have better survivability and they have just really busted abilities. And that's the reason why I would think that Whitebeard is not as good as the characters in Tier 0. But just because I don't have Whitebeard in Tier 0 does not mean that I think he's bad. I think Whitebeard is one of the best legends in the game, by far. I think he's probably one of the best legends in there. Probably top 3 best legends in Tier 1, for sure. But I don't think he's a Tier 0 character. As I said, that's my opinion. But now let's move on to the top tier, of course. Boom, here we go. Top tier, Tier 0. And the only change here for Tier 0 is the introduction of Barto and Cavendish into Tier 0, which I think makes a lot of sense. A lot of people were really upset with the fact that I didn't have Barto and Cavendish in Tier 1 and Tier 0 last month. Understandably so, but you gotta remember, you know, I only just pulled the character and I really wanted to try them out. And yeah, they're obviously Tier 0. They are ridiculous with the survivability that you get from them, with the damage threshold special ability, the 2.25 times attack boost special ability. Their dual captain is ridiculous. Their switch effect is ridiculous. And as a sub, they work so well with legitimately every character on here. You could run them as a sub on a Snake Man team, as a sub on a Whitebeard Marco team. Actually, on a Whitebeard Marco team, that's kind of busted, right? Because you get healing capabilities from Wako, healing capabilities and damage reduction from Barto and Cavendish. Works really well on V2 Katakuri teams. Obviously doesn't work well with Sanji and Judge, but Sanji and Judge is a whole different kettle of fish, right? Obviously with powerhouse teams, and obviously going through with Cracker and stuff like that, and you can do crazy stuff with Sanji and Judge. Now, Sanji and Judge is an interesting one because he doesn't really have that many usable units because you are dedicated to a single class. One class you're dedicated to, and that's same with Barto and Cavendish. But you gotta remember that they are so ridiculously good at surviving stuff that they can be put on any different team, and they're gonna be useful assets to those teams. But for Sanji and Judge, you are dedicated to that one class. Like, you have to run your powerhouse units. Like, you need 6 powerhouse units for this guy as a captain to function. You don't need one of every color, but at least one of every class has to be powerhouse. Every unit has to be powerhouse on the teams, which means that the teams are a little bit one-dimensional at times. But you gotta remember, with all of the powerhouse characters that have been releasing recently, they don't really have any problems clearing content, especially with the V2 German batch and all of the other legends that are available that are powerhouse. Sanji Judge does not have an issue clearing content, and even as a sub on any one of these other guys' teams, or you can run Cracker as the captain if you wanted to, you can run Whitebeard as the captain if you wanted to, and the Sanji Judge sub, right? You gotta remember, he's a 2 times attack, 2 times orb boost to powerhouse, as well as reducing 5 turns of paralysis with his special. And he has that amazing switch effect of giving you a tandem orb, which can be treated as beneficial on lots of different teams. But adding that chain boost as well is really good. Like, every turn you can get that chain boost, which is, let's say I put a little bit more damage. It's ridiculous, man. So, as I said, there really wasn't much different here with Tier 1. All of his characters were ridiculously useful for the most recent content that came out in September. Whitebeard and Marco are still extremely slow, but that reliability, man, they clear everything. And the fact that they are rainbow captains at the end of the day also helps out their reasoning why I would have them in Tier 0. But man, not really much else happened, man. Just the release of the Slasher batch, the Tier 1 introduction with Sanji, and the Tier 0 introduction with Barto and Cavendish. So that's going to conclude this tier list this month. Now, the next tier list is going to be interesting because a lot of people are predicting that Luffy and Law should be arriving on One Piece Treasure Cruise Global. If that's the case, I hope it is the case. That's going to be insanely fun, man, because Luffy and Law, they are probably the best legend in the game, probably even to today's standards on JP. Maybe there's like maybe 2 characters that would rival them, in my opinion. Maybe 3 characters that rival them. But Luffy and Law are going to be the best legend in the game for a while. So look forward to that, and hopefully that is the case. And obviously once we get that information, I'll provide you guys with video content for that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video of the tier list this month. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.